So you want to complete a training plan for a half marathon and do it the absolute laziest way possible. Okay, so maybe I'm giving you a little bit of a hard time. You've got a lot of work to do, you've got family life, you've got all these other things, but you also want to complete a half marathon. I'm Jesse Funk, and on today's episode of Runner's High, I'm going to show you the basics of a training plan that can help you complete a half marathon with minimal training. Before we get going, let me be consistent and say I'm not a big fan of going couch to half marathon or full marathon. I think the risk of getting injured is too high compared to what the reward is actually finishing that race. So please run for a little while before you start this plan. If you want to ignore me, you are open to do that. You have your own agency, but please take my caveat. That's what I often say. Couch to marathon or couch to half marathon is, risks of injury. So now that we've got past that caveat, let's get on to the actual plan. The plan I'm going to give you actually covers 16 weeks of training, and it's often prescribed to do 12 weeks of training before your half marathon. I added 16 weeks because I know some of you watching this, if you are watching this and you're one of those people that wants to go from couch to half marathon, then you need that extra month. Please heed my advice. But down in the description, there's a link to the actual training plan that I'm describing here. Without going by week, I'm actually going to describe just some of the key elements in case you want to go rogue and do your own training plan. You'll have the key elements that I use in this training schedule. Again, if you want to get that training schedule I've already put together that will get you from very low mileage to completing that half marathon, go to the link below in the description. The first key component to the training block that I've made for you is broken up into 5 mini blocks, or it's really periodized. I talk about this in some of my other videos on the channel, periodization, and how important it is to use it when you're building up to new mileage. It helps mitigate that risk of injury that I've talked about before, and then allows you to kind of build into new mileage a little more comfortably than if you're just going to try to slam that mileage in. So from those 16 weeks, it's 5 blocks of 2 weeks building, 1 week recovery, and you repeat that 5 times. There's also 1 week of taper right before you get to the race because you want to make sure you're fresh, prepared, ready to go, and have kind of maximum effort in you when you get to the starting line. The real big key component to this training plan actually comes in these 2-day blocks in the weeks. And what I mean is that there are 2 days back to back in the schedule where you're going to do your longest runs. This is something that I use in my training that my coach prescribes for me in my triathlon training, both for Olympic and 70.3 distance. So if you're not familiar with those, Olympic takes me roughly 2 hours and a little change. And then the 70.3 or half Ironman includes a half marathon at the end. But when we do this block, this 2-day block, it allows you to kind of build your endurance without going as far in one day, which again, it's all about mitigating injury risk and then increasing your potential to grow and become a stronger athlete. So what happens is that you have to pick out 2 days a week. Often for most people, that's the weekend. It's Saturday, Sunday. For me, it's Sunday, Monday, but I have a little bit more flexibility in my work schedule. What you'll do is you'll do a longer run, say it's Saturday, Sunday, the longer run on Saturday, and the still long but less long run on Sunday. You're trying to simulate the load of a long run, both those mileages together, without having the risk of injury. When you use this is kind of the bread and butter of getting to the start line at your half marathon and knowing that you can complete because your body's gone through a lot of the adjustments that it needs to be able to go for a longer period of time because you've been doing these blocks of long runs over that 16-week building period. It's also important to follow those rest weeks when they come up. Don't just think you're gonna plow right through all the mileage all the way to your race and be fine. That is a recipe for disaster. I don't know how many times I'm going to mention in this video, but again, you're increasing injury risk when you do that. So follow the 2-1 periodization, be patient, know that the training plan that I'm prescribing here for you, or the thing that you put together that builds that mileage over time using all of the suggestions I give on the channel here, is going to get you from the start line all the way to the finish line, along with your determination to do so. But here's the thing, you don't necessarily have to take my word for it. I actually interview people. If you subscribe to the channel, hit that button right there in the bottom right hand corner. It's red, it says subscribe. Stay tuned for other episodes of Runner Highs. But my other series, the Smart Athlete Podcast, I talk to some very intelligent athletes that are also very competitive. Two people you might be interested in particular is the episode called Marathon Mind with Chris Lundstrom. He's a highly qualified marathoner and also a coach of Team USA Minnesota. And you also might be interested in episode, I believe, 19 with Stephanie Howe-Violet. She is an ultramarathoner who's won the Western States 100. If you don't know how epic that is, look up the Western States 100. It's a 100-mile ultramarathon. It's kind of the, I'll say, North American championship of ultramarathons. So both those people, we talk about injury, we talk about training, we talk about all those kind of things. So don't take my word for it. It's very important to mitigate risk in your injury when you're building up, especially for long distances. When you use those two essential elements, that back-to-back 2-day long run, and the periodization where you go build 2 weeks, then rest week for that 5 repetitions, and your taper, when you put those two together, those are the keys that you need to complete your half marathon with minimal training. So if you want to know more about marathon training, half marathon training, 5K training, running in general, subscribe to the channel, hit that button down there in the right corner. Stay tuned with me for more episodes of Runner's High.